Hey guys, welcome to Earth to Rosita. So today I felt really inspired to talk about this topic because of some pessimism and a lot of kind of unfair thinking that I've seen throughout a lot of my years as a vegan. Um, a lot of my years as a vegan. I've only been vegan for 3.5 years. So, the first thing I kind of wanted to rant off about, in regard to a lot of pessimism that I see, is this idea that we'll never reach a vegan world. Now, I understand where that pessimism comes from, like on just like a human level and just like a psychological standpoint, I suppose. I think that it comes from just because of the fact that it's such a new idea and such a new concept in society, especially the Western societies, because like I know that maybe in a different culture or a different group within the West or something like that, vegetarianism, for example, that's the norm out there, and because people have had being vegetarian or maybe vegan and maybe like India or something since they were born, they can't even like imagine eating meat, my camera cut out because my phone is like directly around the sun, and it overheated. So anyway, as I was saying, like in some cultures they were raised not to eat meat, aka animal flesh, and yeah, so I can understand, like, because you were raised a certain way and that's all that you know, and you see so much of society doing just the same thing. It's hard to like fathom the idea that there could ever be a time in the future, near future, distant future, where we're not doing that thing. But you have to like think about the nature of change. For example, you have to think about how much has changed throughout human history. Like, I don't think people 500 years ago ever thought that technology like this would be possible. So I think that intellectually and logically, and just like thinking about the past, this is incorrect. It's just flat out wrong, and that's the most blunt way that I can put it, because it just doesn't really make sense to say that we will never have a vegan world, because we've been exploiting and we've been slaughtering animals for so long. I think that eating animal flesh is, in the here and now, not sustainable anymore, because it's so destructive. And it's sad because even though the vegan movement is growing, we are still not seeing a downfall of people eating animal flesh. But yeah, the point that I was making before, like 1,000 years ago, like thousands and thousands of years ago, I don't think our ancestors would even like begin to imagine that we would have technology like this, So just by understanding the nature of evolution and change, I think that it's kind of like denial to say that we'll never reach a vegan world when things are always changing. So basically what I'm trying to say is that we create the world we want, and we create the world that is at our level of consciousness, to get more spiritual hippy dippy on you guys. And like, I think that from another perspective that I can try to understand why people say this so often is, I think that maybe it's just an inner feeling of powerlessness in their own lives that they project out to the entire world. Like, for example, I hear a lot of people say that this is the system that we live in, like a capitalist system, and we can't do anything about it, so we just have to try to work with this capitalistic system that we don't even inherently agree with, as best we could, you know? Or even if someone isn't really aware of why of the problems of like a capitalistic system, they complain about their job, for instance, the job that they feel locked in and they can't leave, because if they leave, then the fear of change. A fear of change. A fear of change is another reason why people believe that we could never reach a vegan world. And I think that that's where optimism optimism is needed, you know? And that's why I wanted to that's the purpose of this video, is to give some optimism, offer up some optimism, because I think that it's not useful to chant this mantra, we'll never have this world, we'll never see this change in this world. I've been really thinking, you know, like, words are truly spells. We are creating the reality that we want through our language, through the words that we use, through the spells that we cast by using this language. We are like, this is like what Dakota Wentz said. This is we are casting spells, and that's the magic. That's the real witchcraft. And I really like his perspective on that. It makes a lot of sense, you know, because like if you look at how powerful your words are and what they do to other people, like if you say something nice to somebody, like if you tell someone that you think they're beautiful, that is gonna like lift their spirits up for maybe the entire day. Similarly, if you are like being an asshole to someone and saying horrible things to them, that's gonna fuck them up. That's gonna ruin their day, you know? So, yeah, to believe that we can't reach a vegan world, like we cannot, it's not possible, it's impossible to reach a vegan world, is, like I was saying before, it's shedding light to a person's subconscious that feels like they can't make changes in their own lives, so they extend that out to the world, you know? But you can change your life, you know? You can have any life that you want, and you can create your own world as you want if you work for it, and you're not powerless. So if you extend that out to other things, like a social justice, like a justice movement, such as animal liberation, aka veganism, aka the vegan philosophy, we can have a vegan world just by being vegan, you know, like, just like you can create revolutions just by going out there and speaking to the people and doing the protests and writing up the petitions. You can have the world that you want. You can create the world that you want by being that change. And you're not helpless, you know. It only takes one person to plant that seed. And planting that seed is easier than you think. Like, some people have different forms of vegan activism. Some people focus more on the food and nutrition and recipes. Some people focus more on the environment and spreading awareness and really showing, like, the correlation between, like, climate change and how, like, the way that we produce food is destructive to the planet, aka animal flesh. And some people, for me, the most important part of veganism is, of course, the animals. So I really try to get people to connect that dot on a spiritual level and on, like, just like a human level, not just a spiritual level. Like, you don't even have to, like, be a superly spiritual person, but just, like, to recognize the injustice of it, just to, like, intellectually understand, right, like, so if you wouldn't do that to a dog, for instance, why would you do that to a turkey, a pig, or chicken? If you wouldn't want that done onto you, why would you want that done onto another sentient being? Which, like, people can argue that humans are not the same as animals. And obviously we are not the same as animals because we're in a different form. But to our core, like, the most important part, the most important similarity that we share with animals is sentience. So our ability to feel pain is their ability to feel pain. So just because of that one thing, I think it's a powerful enough reason to become vegan, to make that connection, to understand the philosophy past diet and past what you think is just food choices. Like, of course, food choices is a big portion of the vegan philosophy because you can't avoid that part of the exploitation. But we exploit animals for needless reasons. When there is, like, when it is objective, like, when it is scientifically proven that most people can probably sustain themselves from with a vegan diet. And I say most people because I'm not ignorant and I'm not trying to I'm not trying to dismiss the struggles of the poor, you know, like, and like I said in a previous discussion video, I believe wholeheartedly that people can at least go vegetarian in a Western society. And I know that that's not something that even I like to say as a vegan, because I wish that the whole world could go vegan right now. But I think it's unfair to dismiss, like, a person's maybe allergies to something, like, or a financial situation of a person. But I think that at least 95% of the population can at least go vegetarian, if not vegan. And we can't just project our life experience to like billions of people. We have to recognize, just like everything else, that there are people that can't afford like a nutritionist to be able to understand nutrition, or even if it's like, it's not a matter of money, maybe it's a matter of time. Maybe they just don't have the time to do tons and tons of research, because nutrition is like nutritional science, because we've avoided it for so long. People are still just learning about nutrition. It's very new. And there's so much misinformation about nutrition in general. Like, we've been taught a lie that meat is good for you, and you need cow's breast milk or goat's breast milk. And it's just a lie that has been told from generation to generation. So to really sit down and research, to work out like maybe an iron deficiency, or because I think that iron is one of the most common fears that people have as going vegan. B12, not so much, because most people should, like, a quick Google search will show that all you need to do is take a multivitamin or a supplement for vitamin D, vitamin B12, and maybe an algae supplement for omegas, or you can just eat flaxseed or walnuts for omegas. I like walnuts personally for omegas to sustain myself, nutrition wise. Walnuts is my go-to. I have like a handful of walnuts every day. But some people can't afford that, so maybe just a supplement or something like that. It takes a lot of research to really debunk all of this misinformation that the meat, egg, and dairy industry has presented. But yeah, like, I just think that it's important to recognize the power that we have as human beings in creating the world that we want. We can't resort to pessimism just because it's not here yet. Because by resorting to pessimism, a pessimistic attitude, and saying, oh, we'll never have this world, or we'll never have that, like a vegan world, that is the reality that you're creating just by saying that. And it's useless. It's useless, because you, as you're saying this, you're still contributing to the suffering when you don't need to. When you have other options, you know? So now I wanted to touch on morality. Now, this was actually inspired by one of my friends that hit me with morality today. Well, two of my friends, but one of my friends, I want you guys to go and subscribe to his channel because he's trying to hit 100 subs. So please go and subscribe to his channel. Help him out. I'll link his channel below. He talks about politics and stuff like that. But yes, my friend said about like morality, you know, and I understand like it's morality is subjective to some degree, but I think that just as like in many other ways, morality should be fixed. Morality should be set in stone. Especially when we're talking about a situation that which we're not in a survival situation of. Like, I hope that I worded that well. Sorry if that was poorly worded. So, morality is subjective is another thing I hear a lot when confronted with like arguments to dismiss veganism. And honestly, like I think that it's just, this is another useless line, because I think that if we already understand why it's wrong to murder human beings, for instance, or exploit human beings, rape human beings, when did we create this law, you know? And why did we create this law? And why did we create this sense of morality? Well, obviously, like, a logical reason for that is because if we killed off, like, if we accepted murder and rape, then there would be a lot of suffering, and our species could, like, obviously, like, die out. Because, like, if we don't legally or morally, like, if we don't shun people who murder others, if we don't teach society that murdering other human beings is wrong, then our species could essentially, like, go extinct. Because if everyone's just murdering everyone, then we wouldn't exist. So this is a useful, this is useful. But it is also useful to extend that out to other sentient life. Just because we've already recognized that needlessly murdering humans is wrong. So needlessly murdering other animals is just the next step. And you don't even have to love animals for this. You don't have to care about any animals. You don't have to be an animal lover. It's just a recognition that if it doesn't need to happen, why should we do it? Because most of the population of, like, most of the Western world can at least go whole foods plant-based with their food choices, and they can go without animal tested products, and they can go without entering zoos, and they'll just be fine, like, be just fine, you know? So if we can survive without exploiting animals in any way, shape, or form, because of all the new mock meats coming out, because of all this new science coming out, plant-based science coming out, I mean, because of all this new nutritional science coming out saying that a plant-based diet is sustainable and people can thrive if they do it correctly. So it's almost illogical. Look, it's not almost. It is illogical to. It's illogical to reach for the 500 grams of cow flesh when in the next aisle there is 400 grams of plant-based meat. And I know that maybe tradition is a factor for you in stopping you, taste, things like that. But that's why the moral compass needs to be strong in a person. Like, you can have food be just as tasty as you can make it, you know? And the real tricky part is to just understand that this is like 400 grams of plant-based mince is not a dead animal, and there is something wrong with choosing the body part of an animal that was slaughtered and exploited, because it's not a high vibrational food, and it's not ethical. And also, just going back to like, do unto others as you would want done unto you. So just recognizing that that animal did not give his or her life away for you. It was taken because you are disconnected from that process. And you think that it's justifiable to say that because you like the way something tastes or the way that something makes you feel because of nostalgia as a kid and growing up and eating the same foods with your family that you love, it's like your values shouldn't change or something like that. And it's just realizing the value of animals without needing to take something from them. Like, we commodify animals so much so to the point where we actually have to debate this the moral issue with it. It's an unjust stance to take, to say that animals shouldn't have the right to life because you enjoy the taste of their flesh. Just saying that out loud, it sounds sinister to me. It sounds sinister, and it sounds completely unjust. And it's just, I think that it's time for us to expand what we talk about when we're considering our morals. It shouldn't just be humans anymore. It should be other animals, because we're aware that other animals have personhood, that other animals have the right to life, the right to live, because they don't have to die for us, because there are other options at the supermarket for you, because we've finally reached a point where we don't have to do that to them. So, and we can phase out the taste of meat, because plant-based foods are reshaping the entire, like, our taste buds entirely. Like, we don't have to latch on to the taste of chicken. We don't have to latch on to the taste of bacon. We can replace it with something that is new. To say that animals are not worthy of moral consideration, it just doesn't really make sense. Because morals change all of the time. And now I think it's the time for us to extend our moral compass to other animals, just like we once started to extend our moral compass to other humans, and come to the conclusion that it's wrong to kill other humans because we've never needed to. Just like we've come to a place where we realize that it's wrong to own slaves. Human slaves, Just like, that's another thing. That's another correlation that I find very interesting. We once had human slaves, but right now we've made slaves out of animals. So these human problems and the problems that we face with the animal holocaust, they're more interconnected than we are willing to acknowledge. And if you look at the amount of ways that we exploit animals and link it up with things that humans have done onto other humans in the past, you'd find similarities. And yeah, I think that it's time for, as we become more aware of these things, I think it's useful for a variety of reasons, for spiritual reasons, for environmental reasons, to just get to the place where we decide to leave animals alone. And it's really not that difficult anymore. Vegans have done that work for you guys. We've come up with a bunch of plant-based alternatives for a lot of things. So I think it's just important to progress and heighten to progress our morals as the time goes by. So that's all I wanted to say today. There will be more vegan videos, and I'm looking forward to talking about a bunch of topics. But yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope that you guys are having a lovely day or night. Subscribe, like, and share, maybe. Bye, guys.